Islam. Islam family. Early Saturn day morning, day of discipline. Um, it's been a while since I've done one of these videos. It's probably been like a week or so. Been busy, you know what I'm saying? It takes a lot of time and energy in order to help facilitate government. So when we got to get to work, we got to get to work. We don't live on YouTube now. Yesterday's conference call was dope. For everyone who's not a private member of Swindon University, you need to become one, because our conference calls be lit on Fridays. They be lit with clarity, with information, with inner, and overstanding, full comprehension, and expansion on the creative side, understanding our shit, our laws. So the topic we was discussing actually was based on U.C.C. And I wanted to put the U.C.C. in a coffin box. To be honest with you, I want to put it in a coffin, because it's another hamster wheel that people can't seem to get their mind wrapped around. That it's not necessary nor effective. So I took the time yesterday to break this down in the conference call, and like I said, it was an awesome conference call, man. All the members were in there. It was lit. Information was getting hit. A lot of aha moments. And it was just beautiful, man. We was doing the work of uplifting fallen humanity, right? By teaching our brothers and sisters the ancient ways of their ancient foremothers and forefathers. So we was discussing the treaty. We was discussing the relationship of the treaty in reference to the U.C.C. So I will give you a overall breakdown, right? Now I tell you, it took time. I was going through reading documents and shit like that. So I ain't gonna do all that, because everyone has a smartphone nowadays. So everything I say, you can look it up. All you gotta do is type into Google and just go ham, all right? And just start reading. Start reading. So if you look at what's the U.C.C. first of all? U.C.C. is the Uniform Commercial Code. Okay, it's pretty much the codes of commerce, how commerce is conducted throughout the world, domestically and internationally. U.C.C. came into existence about, I may be off, but about late early 1700s. So it's not ancient, it's very modern, just like these statutes and codes. And according to U.C.C. 9-311, and that chapter is dealing with perfection of a security interest, dealing with statutes, regulations, and treaties. And what it says in that chapter, right, U.C.C. 9-311, is that there are perfections of security interests that are subject to other law outside of the U.C.C. And in U.C.C. 9-311, you'll see that right there in the and remember the rules of brackets. So they put it in the brackets, so it's for our eyes to see, but it's not really a part of the document. You see what I'm saying? So in there it states that when it comes to perfecting a security interest, it can be subject to other law outside of the Uniform Commercial Codes. Those laws that it can be obligated to are statutes, regulations, and treaties. So now this is where knowing thyself comes into play. So if I know I have a treaty in place, right? It's not just any treaty, right? It's the longest, it's the longest lasting treaty in world history. Not the oldest treaty, but the longest lasting treaty. Meaning this treaty has been the longest joint in operation since all the treaties prior. This shit is the truth. Okay? And our treaty is a treaty of amity and commerce. Commerce, y'all. So then you got your Uniform Commercial Codes, and then you got a treaty of amity and commerce. Which one do you think came first, the treaty or the codes? Or maybe you think the codes came after the treaty, the same way the Constitution comes after the treaty. Because as far as the Constitution goes, we're only obligated to Article 3, which is diversity of citizenship, and Article 6, which is the supremacy clause, which states that all treaties entered into before the adoption of this Constitution, before, right? You got the Articles of Confederation, 1781. You got the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, 1786. All right? So you can keep going further back, all the way back to 1491 and beyond that time, right? So the Treaty of Peace and Friendship is a treaty of amity and commerce. Commerce. So if we already have a treaty of commerce, why do you need to subject yourselves to codes of commerce? Do you get where I'm coming from, family? So in U.C.C. 9-311, it states that in the perfection of a security interest is neither necessary nor effective to file a financing statement if that pretty much if that bond, right, or if that perfection of the security interest is regulated by treaty. Do you have a treaty? I do. It's called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1786 between the United States of America and Morocco. And then it was amended in 1836 under the Sultan's son. So we have a treaty of amity and commerce. We don't need to subject ourselves to uniform commercial codes. And then when you go further down in the same very section, in section B, it's going to say compliance, right? Now, since you don't need to file a financing statement to perfect the security interest due to the fact you have a treaty, how do you comply? How do you make the rules and regulations of the treaty comply to the perfection of your security interests? You know what it said in the U.C.C? It said the act of doing those things that you put down in your truth in the form of an affidavit, by you living that out, that is the perfection of the security interest. I'm going to repeat that one more time, y'all. Due to the fact that we have a treaty, so there's no need to file a financing statement. The only thing required to perfect your security interests dealing with your treaty is to act out what you've put on the record. So if you're claiming to be an heir of the vast estate known as Morocco, Maghreb al-Aqsa, northwest of Mexico, Morocco the extreme west, Atlantis Islands, Atlan, Turtle Island, whatever the fuck you want to call this ancient land, because it got many names, y'all. It got many names. I even like to call this shit Duck Island sometimes. If you flip North and South America, or if you're looking at the map and then you tilt your head like this and look at it, you look at it vertical, but from a horizontal perspective, even though you're like this, you're looking at it up and down, but you're seeing the picture like this. You see what I'm saying? Like horizontal. If you were to do that, you would see that North and South America and Central America, this shit look like, I don't know if y'all watch Pokemon, but the shit look like Charmander. Real shit. Like the top of North America look like his tail with the little candle flame lit and shit. Like, son, North and South America look like Charmander. That's my perspective. That's how I see it. So some people say Turtle Island shit. Like, I say Charmander. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, right? If you look in our treaty now, because in Article 6 of the Constitution, supremacy clause, it states that all treaties shall be the supreme law of the land. So being that I can identify with myself, and therefore I can identify with my treaty is the supreme law of the land, known as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship between the United States and Morocco, right? So if that is my treaty, and I know that it holds supreme, and I can find that in Article 6, right, of the Constitution confirmed. And then if I look in the treaty, right, and I go down to Article 22, that's dealing with heirs, wills, and trusts. Right there in our treaty, y'all. Our treaty, which is the supreme law of the land, right? The Constitution for the United States of America was adopted from our treaty. It was adopted from our treaty. So the treaty is the child. The Constitution is the child. Treaty is the mother. You understand? So all we need to do is rock out with mother. We don't need to rock out with the child. We're connected directly to the mother. We're connected to the source. All right. So the Constitution, Article 6, right? Supremacy Clause. Right there in the first part of the Supremacy Clause, it states that all debts, and all debts and contracts entered into before the adoption of this Constitution. So right then and there, in Article 6, in the Supremacy Clause is dealing with commerce. The Supremacy Clause is dealing with commerce. I'm going to say that one more time. The Supremacy Clause is dealing with commerce. The Supremacy Clause is dealing with commerce. Article 6 of the Constitution. And all debts and contracts entered into. So that means there's debtors and creditors established. Right? That means all treaties that were made before the adoption of this Constitution, they're valid against the United States as under the Confederacy, 1871. Now, the treaty is all about debts. So who's the debtor? Who's the debtor, y'all? It ain't the Moors. U.S. citizens are debtors. They're the collateral. They are, but who are the people of the United States? We the people of the United States. Y'all need to read the preamble of the Constitution, because we the people of the United States established this Constitution for the United States of America. And when they say we the people of the United States, they're not talking about U.S. citizen. They're not talking about District of Columbia. When we say United States, we're talking about the several states, because United States of America didn't exist until 1871. So before then, Virginia was already in existence. Texas was already in existence. California was there. New York. New York was there. New Jersey was there. Etc. etc. So these are considered Philadelphia. So these are considered the several states or countries, right? The states that were here before the so-called United States of America. So in that Supremacy Clause is dealing with all debts and contracts. So when they say who's the creditor? Well, the creditor can only be an heir. And an heir is an heir because an heir can identify himself with his treaty left to him by his ancestors. And only he or she can go and claim the hereditaments through that treaty, right? Or through that affidavit, which is what the treaty is, affidavit, or through that levy or through that bond, okay, that specifically names us as parties to that trust. Period. It's not up for discussion. It's not up for discussion. So understanding that the Constitution deals with commerce, our treaty deals with commerce, there's no reason to lower yourselves down to the uniform commercial codes. It's not necessary or effective if you're operating with treaty. And this is why I do everything through my trust, y'all. W8 Ben purposes only, treaty purposes only. And people will comprehend that the treaty supersedes the U.C.C. Because at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, that felt really good, by the way. Because at the end of the day, codes don't supersede law. So our treaties are the supreme law. Not the supreme code, not the supreme articles, not the supreme statutes, but the supreme law. And in U.C.C. 9-311, it states that perfection of security interests subject to other law, not subject to other codes, policies, regulations. It says subject to other law. Law, L-A-W, law, law. Okay? Everything's based on law. That's why we Moors, we fuck with law, because that's all there is. After you identify the pieces on the chessboard, everything's about the system. How does the system function? How does it operate? What does its government look like? And if you look up the term government, the government is simply the way something is run. That's what a government is. A government isn't people or a group or organization. A government is the structure, the template on how you do your shit. How do you operate, right? Modes of operandi. All right, that's what that is. That's what a government is. It's just how do you do what you do? How do you function? How do you coexist? How do you get things done as a collective? How do you get things done as an individual? You see what I'm saying? That's what a government is. It's not, oh, these people are government. No. If you have a system in place, right? Kind of like your home. If mom and dad have house rules, that's government. They have a system in place to govern how you should act when you're amongst society. That's what government is. That's all it is. So when you walk into a real government has a constitution. So you can see what is expected of every member or every national or citizen of this particular government. What is the modes of operandi? How should I be conducting myself? Y'all know that when it comes to jobs as rules of etiquette, right? Modes of operandi. That would be considered the job's constitution, right? Equality, how to make everyone feel secure and equal no matter their religion, religious creed, sexual origin, sexual affinities, whether they're homosexual, heterosexual, it don't matter. You can't discriminate. You got to show respect. Or you might find yourself with a heavy lawsuit on your ass. All right? So, I'm just like glossing over. And everything I'm saying, you got to read it to make it make sense. All right, because like we said, as far as dealing with traveling issues, all the issues we have when people are trying to find United States codes and things in the Constitution to use as affirmance of things that have been violated, all those things can be found in the treaty. You just got to have an eye to see it. For instance, if I'm dealing with traveling issues, I don't need the Constitution. Meaning, I don't need the American Constitution. I don't need to use any uniform commercial codes. I don't need none of those things. Only thing that stands, if I say what was violated, right? Article 4 of my treaty. So now you should go look up Article 4 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, because you should know the Treaty of Peace and Friendship like your right hand, your backhand. The same way you could pull out articles from the Constitution. Oh, Article 4, Section 4 states that every state in this union shall be a Republican form of government. You should be able to call out Article 4 of your treaty. That lines out the fact that if both parties, right, if vessels come out to sea that are owned by both parties, meaning owned by what? The Moorish nation and the Christian nation, they are to be known by a sign or a signal. So that means that if they know who you are, you won't get fucked with. But in order to not get fucked with, people got to know who you are. So when they read the plates, which is the sign or the seal or the signal, right, which is the sign or the signal for the vessel, when they scan it and the straw name pops up, resident, social security number, then you're fucked. You're under the jurisdiction. You're their property because you haven't made yourself known that you're something other than that, right? So for me, in my tribe, when they scan plates, whenever they do that shit, when they scan plates and Sunoshi Amaru Republic pops up, there's no social security attached. There's no state ID attached. Okay? There's the trust instrument that was filed on the public record and the EIN number for the trust. So now when we do that, we've put all our vehicles underneath Moorish dominions. So we can't be fucked with. You know why? Because we've made ourselves known. When he, boop, Sunoshi Amaru Republic. Boop, register with the Secretary of State. Boop, Secretary of State got our articles of incorporation. All that shit. So they don't need to talk to me. You need to talk to your Secretary of State. See, because if you do things right, you won't have to worry about what do I say if I'm getting stopped. You know why? Because you won't get stopped. Because they'll know who you are. So when the vessels come and meet at sea, Article 4 of the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. When the vessels come to meet at sea and they're owned by both parties, they shall be known by their seal. And being the fact that everyone comes under one seal and signal, right? Because every state has plates. So on the surface, it looks like everyone is operating the same, but everyone is not. Once you go past the surface, right? What instruments did you use to register the vehicle? Who's the lien holder of the vehicle? Is it the straw that you haven't reclaimed as yet? That you haven't reconveyed into your personal, private, international trust as an indigenous being, foreign to the United States? Have you done that? Then you need to. Because that's your estate. And it's still claimed to be abandoned. So people don't comprehend. The estate The United States uses the estate for everything. That means even to charge you. If you're going to court, you're going to court based off the information you put in through the DOL. If you're dealing with traveling issues, and if you're going to court in overall, is being charged through the birth certificate. So if you haven't established yourself as the registered owner, aka the holder in due course, then you ain't doing shit. They can abuse your ass all day long because you still haven't made it known that you are a majority, that you are in your proper person. And until you do that, those things won't be fulfilled for you because the world needs to know who you are. Like the prophet said, you need to proclaim it. You need to shout the shit out. Shout it out. Like a tomb for all my people who play Skyrim. You gotta shout it out like a tomb. All right. And so when you register vehicles like that, and for my instance, Sunel Shi Amaru Republic is the lien holder for all the vehicles, and Sunel Shi is connected to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. And then based on what I know exactly that if that happens, Article 4 of the treaty was violated. So I don't need the Constitution. I could go right from the treaty. Right from the treaty, directly. You violated Article 4 of our treaty, Bill. And then you'll see Article 4 interpreted into the Constitution. Article 4 is interpreted in the Fourth Amendment. Article 4 is also interpreted in the 11th article, 11th section of the first article of the Washington State Constitution. You can find the fourth. You can find the fourth article of the treaty. You can find the fourth article of the treaty also in the Bill of Rights, as well as the Articles of Confederation, also dealing with traveling. You know what I'm saying? So everything comes from somewhere, yo. So Article 4 of our treaty is what deals with traveling. Okay? And remember, what does it mean to perfect the security interest when dealing with treaties? You just got to act out. So if someone comes across, boop, cars registered to Sunel Shi Amaru Republic. That's the action. That's the compliance in relation to the treaty. Because in the treaty it states that all these ships shall come underneath one envoy, meaning they shall come underneath one name, one empire, one ship, one company, one brand, one organization, one whatever. Okay? And based on the declaration of the commander, all of those envoys that carry the same name, Sunel Shi Amaru Republic, shall be exempt from examination. They shall be exempt from being stopped. They shall not be stopped in their travels based on the declaration of the commander. And the declaration of the commander is what I use to register the vehicles at the DOL. The Declaration of Trust, aka Articles of Organization, aka Trust Instrument. The declaration of the commander, right? Because I signed off on behalf of Sunel as consul, which I've been elected by the people of Sunel. They authorized me to do that, so I do that. You see what I'm saying? So I'm working, I'm functioning, I'm moving in compliance with the treaty. So that is the proof of the perfection of a security interest. The fact that I'm acting out what I put down on paper. Because the paper is just here. My actions speak louder than words, y'all. And so for all my brothers and sisters who've been operating with the U.C.C, it's not necessarily no effective, y'all. Y'all need to really get to know your treaty. Like really, really, really get to know your treaty. Like from the inside out. Because once you do that, you'll see that everything you need as far as the law, as far as enforcement, is right there in the treaty. The Constitution and all that other stuff is like extra. It's like, sprinkles or cherries on top. They're there, but they're not really necessary. Everything you need is in that treaty. And every time you look past it, you abandon in your estate. Because the treaty is your direct law. Yeah, the Constitution is an overall general law based on everyone, so that everyone can come to a general meeting ground. But the treaty is specifically for you. It ain't for everybody else. That's your shit, specifically. So use that, because it stands above everything else. All treaties shall be the supreme law of the land. So why you ain't fucking with your treaty? Even for my Mexican brothers and sisters, right? AKA Moorish brothers and sisters. Y'all should be operating under the Treaty of Guadalupe and Hidalgo, February 2nd, 1848. What are y'all doing? That's your treaty. I could use that treaty too if I wanted. I could. Because I am the heir of that.
So everyone's supposed to be operating through their treaty, yo. Why are you not operating through your treaty? Why do you think your treaty is not good enough? Why do you think you need something secondary other than your treaty, which is the primary? Why do you feel like you need to play yourself and downgrade yourself and use lower vibrational shit like codes when you have a treaty that lays out how people are to treat your ass? That's why they call it a treaty. It's based on the trees. It's about that symbiotic relationship between us and the trees. They give us oxygen to inhale, we exhale the carbon dioxide, which is what they inhale. It's a give and take relationship. They give, they take. We give, we take. That's why we call it treaties. How to treat each other. How do I treat you and how do you treat me? Without violating your tenets or your principles or your divine religious creed. How do I do that? That's what a treaty's for. This is how you do that. So when it comes to treaties, if your shit is set up properly, when you operate underneath your treaty, you won't have to worry about being stopped. That's what your treaty is there for. Enforce it. Put it into action. Take the shit off the shelf. You see what I'm saying? So all day long, I hear a lot of more. Yo, U.C.C. this, U.C.C. I'm telling y'all, yo, family, I'm telling y'all. If you ain't hear from nobody else, you gonna hear from Brother Cool. You don't need a U.C.C. It's not necessary nor effective. All you need is your motherfucking treaty. So bang out with your treaty. Hard. Bang out hard with the treaty. Because the treaty is solid. Because they can make adjustments or edits to codes and statutes and regulations and shit over time, but they can't touch a treaty. You can't touch a treaty. You can't just randomly one day make an amendment to a treaty and that's it. This is why the treaty stays the same. People don't go and making amendments to the treaty. The same way the treaty is now is the way it was since 1836. It hasn't been changed or altered. And the only reason for the first change was because the Sultan who originally signed it died and his son took over. So therefore his son had to extend the treaty. Because the son has an option. He can honor his father's wishes or he can say fuck his father's wishes. Which made the United States very nervous because they weren't very sure if the son was going to renege or not. Lord and behold, the son didn't renege. So obviously the United States caught him. But from 1836 is when the treaty became perpetual every 50 years. So every 46 years, every country has until the 46th year. Year number 46 is the year where you state that, hey, when year 50 hits, let's have a convention. We need to make some changes to the treaty. If nobody says shit in year 46, year 47 comes, year 48, 49, year 50, there's no meeting. It automatically renews itself. Boom. The treaty renews itself automatically. Boom. Another 50 years. So year 46 is the year that someone got to say, if someone has something to say now, speak now or forever hold your peace. That's year 46. If you don't speak your peace in year 46, you're going to have to hold that shit for another 50. All right? And that's how that works. So understanding the commerce, the U.C.C. is not it. The treaty is it. Because you can perfect your security interests and make them subject to other law outside of the U.C.C., right? Outside of codes. You can make it subject to other law, like your treaty. But you got to rock out with your treaty. If you are loyal to your treaty, I promise you, your treaty going to be loyal to you. But you got to be loyal to it first. You can't be loyal to all these statutes and codes and shit, and then you not acknowledging the essence and the power of the treaty. Because that's your treaty, no one else's. So if you don't use that shit, it ain't getting used. But what happens is, if you don't use the only thing that was created for you to survive and be able to function and coexist without encumbrances, then this ain't for you. Then you're meant to be taxed and levied upon and, suffer, which means to agree or consent. So you're going to suffer because you keep agreeing to the same old shit. You keep agreeing to be a second-class citizen. You keep on agreeing to be a color. You keep on agreeing to be artificial. You keep on agreeing to be a 14th Amendment citizen. You keep on agreeing to dishonor your ancestors. You keep on agreeing to not acknowledge your laws, to not acknowledge your tenets, to not acknowledge your divine creed. And then when we look in law, right, religion means deed of trust. So my religion, in terms of law, is dictated upon how I act out the laws of the trust that I am a part of. perfection of a security interest. That's why filing of a financial statement is neither necessary nor effective. This ain't me saying this. This is in the U.C.C. Section B. You know what I'm saying? All you got to do is act out the terms of your treaty. And according to the laws of equity, you move as if it is done. So that's how it works. It's that simple, y'all. This is why the prophet said, be yourself. Just be yourself. Just be yourself, man. Running around all this U.C.C. hamster wheel shit. Stop it, y'all. Stop ignoring your treaty. You don't need the U.C.C. You need your treaty. And Article 22 of the treaty is what we're talking about when we say authenticate the birth certificate, reconvey it back into your private trust. All that's in Article 22 of the treaty. When it says if an American should die in our country, well, who's our country? Morocco. If an American shall die in our country, Morocco, and no will shall be left behind, their shit shall be left with a trustee who's worthy of trust. But if a person, but if you have someone who has an interest to that property based on an attachment, like a levy, like an affidavit, like a mortgage, like a lien, like a bond, like a mortgage, like a debt, like an encumbrance, like a lien, like a bond, like a mortgage. So if they have an encumbrance or a debt on that, they will be considered a lien creditor, right? But due to the fact that you have rights not only by the soil, because you were born on the soil, but you have rights through your blood, just sanguineous, through your treaty, guess what? Therefore, your treaty supersedes that clause. It doesn't apply to you. You don't need to file a financial statement because your shit is attached to your treaty. It's supreme. The codes aren't more supreme than the treaty. So just rock out with your treaty. And then if you read the treaty will tell you everything you're dealing with today. All the way from traveling, all the way from making trading, all the way from reconveying the estate back into your private trust. All of that, your position as an heir, all of that is in the treaty. But if you don't see it, it's going to fly over your head. All right. So it's up to you to be able to see that and decipher that and know that, yo, I don't need to get on the hamster wheel and follow U.C.C. Not to say that Moors are bad for doing it, but I'm saying it's neither necessary nor effective if you're operating through your treaty. If you're not using your treaty, then I can understand why you need to go through all them loops and rabbit holes. But if you're functioning through your treaty and you are being yourself and you're acting in the capacity of yourself, meaning I'm acting out how my shit is laid out in my treaty. If I have a car, it's registered in the name of my trust. My trust is registered in the name of the treaty. So that's me acting it out. I don't got to file anything to say this vehicle is property of Suna Shi Amma Republic. I don't got to do that. It's already in their system. Of course, it's in our system, but it's in their system. So we don't, you see what I'm saying? They're the trustees, not me. They're holding the records, not me. I'm keeping my own private.